I think it was really spot on what you said about a lot of people don't pay that much attention to politics, although a lot of our entertainment news has now turned into political news, and that's what you see a lot of. What should sort of the regular layman, the civilian, really be concerned about or listening to? There's so much news everywhere. How do we decipher what are the things that really should stick out and we should pay attention to?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I think politics, when it's done well, and politicians, when they're doing their job, their citizens should not be constantly trying to figure stuff out. That's what we're for. We have a republic form of government. Elect your congressman, let them go off and do their jobs, do their best on trying to solve the problems, and then reward them or punish them 2 years later. I think that part of what changed with Donald Trump and his use of social media and everything else is that it's nonstop barrage of stuff, of chum in the water. And then we have a cycle of media that chases it all. It gets exhausting. Rachel, one of the reasons why Donald Trump lost in 4 years ago is because people are exhausted by that. They wanted a break, I think.
Yeah.
As I said earlier in our conversation, I'm already kind of tired of it. But Mrs. Krapalucci on East 12th Street doesn't stop me and say, what's the Greenland thing all about? She wants to know, is her Social Security going to be okay? She wants to know, is she going to be safe walking to the subway? She wants to know, is the air that she breathes going to be safe? Is there, are we going to deal with the rat problems in our neighborhood? Is they going to close the hospital nearby? So when you say, what should people listen to? If people want to be MSNBC, Fox News viewers and be up the ass of this nonstop, there's plenty of ways to do it. I would tell people that if they find that that's the way they consume news, it probably says something about the anxiety they have about their leaders, that they feel that sense of it. And the other thing I would say is this, in you and I are in the business, so we're not the best barometers of this. There's all kinds of catnip for people trying to get us pissed off, right? Fox News exists to get us angry at stuff. MSNBC exists to get us pissed off at stuff. The outrage meter is constantly on 11. If you'll forgive me, but I'm just not that outraged all the time. I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to solve the problems for my neighbors. But if people want me to be furious all the time, I just don't have the emotional gas for that.
What are your thoughts about the border? The border has been such a big deal, and what I hear from people is I live in Palm Beach, so this is a very sort of MAGA community, and I still hear about how people are eating our dogs and our cats, and that won't shut up, and how people have to get out of the country. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, first of all, people have been demagoguing on immigration for as long as we've been a country. It's the old cartoon. The guy comes through the turnstile at Ellis Island and says to the guy behind him, get out of my country. It's been going on forever. Now, usually we don't have politicians who do it as nakedly and as nastily as Donald Trump does it. That conversation, it's always been there. Being a demagogue on immigration is the easiest thing in politics to do. Don't blame me as your leader. Blame that guy over there, okay? All that being said, immigration is a place that people who make laws need to make laws, and people who enforce laws need to enforce laws, and people that are citizens should be engaged with that conversation. Solving the problems of immigration in our country have always been fairly simple to write down on a piece of paper and difficult to get members of Congress to vote on. We need more security at the border, but we also need to update our laws every 20 years or so. It's been 40 years since we've really updated them, right? At the same time, we have Donald Trump came to office in 2017 on the issue of immigration and did nothing to fix it. Slashed the number of officers and judges that we could adjudicate some of these things more quickly. Slashed the budget for programs for legal immigration. Refused to sit down and negotiate on how to update the system and said, build a wall and Mexico will pay for it. It's not serious. But today, if I had to predict one thing that Trump could be like Nixon going to China, it is around the idea of fixing our outdated immigration laws. And I can do in 90 seconds what Joe Biden could not do for 3 years, which is to describe what this looks like. more security at the border, more border officers, more machinery to track fentanyl, which is coming in, not undocumented people, it's coming in American citizens who are bringing it in the panels of trucks. Have a program to allow people who are paying their taxes, learned English, employing other people, living here as good Americans. Don't give them amnesty, but they go at the end of the line, they pay a fine, they get a worker card that says you're allowed to stay here, and you're allowed to go to your country if you want and go back and forth.
Right.
Then we say to employers, you can't hire anyone who doesn't have one of these cards, okay? Then we go look for everyone else, the people that don't step forward, who are not following the rules. And then we also say some of our things need to get updated. Right now, if you're in the United States and you ask for asylum, you get it. You don't get it permanently, but you're here legally and lawfully until you have your hearing. The hearing backlog, Rachel, is now 7 years. The system just isn't broken. If we update these things, Democrats, Republicans, most regular Americans will say, you know what Anthony Weiner just said? Sounds like a pretty good plan. Let's try to do that.
Wow. It does sound like a pretty good plan.